The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everyone, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Without you, Podcasting After Dark would not be possible. If you would like to help the show grow, please consider signing up at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can also support the show by purchasing one of our awesome t-shirt designs on our merch store at podcastingafterdark.com, or by picking up a copy of 7 Winters Alone by David Irons on paperback, hardback, or Kindle. Just search for 7 Winters Alone on Amazon or click on the link in the show notes. A free way to help out is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those reviews are huge for us and really helps get the show in front of new listeners. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support you've given us over these past few years. It really means the world to us.
Welcome to our Patreon exclusive interview series for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Tonight's interview is with the star of Aliens, Near Dark, and Terminator 2, Jenette Goldstein.
Jenette Goldstein, welcome to Podcasting After Dark.
Well,
and not to sound too cliche, but let's rock, right? I didn't have the same gravitas that you had. Yeah, thank you so much for being on our show.
Oh, yes. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, Corey and I are huge fans of your work, and it's always fun getting to meet somebody that you've grown up kind of idealizing in a way. And then
It's a big disappointment now that you met me.
Flop, flop. No, not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It's more of one of those things that, we're all human, we're all real people, and then let's have a conversation. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about the past, the present, and the future.
All right.
So thanks for being on our show. And Corey, I'm not going to speak for you totally, Corey, but I will say Corey will go down on record as saying Aliens is probably one of his favorite movies of all time.
There's no probably. It is. I always tell people Star Wars is life, but Aliens is my single favorite movie of all time. If I had to take just one movie to a desert island, it would be that. And maybe it's because my dad took me to see it when I was 8 years old in the theater.
Wow.
Yeah,
bad parenting.
The 80s.
Totally.
The 80s were a wild time. It kind of, obviously kind of scared me, but it also clearly made a huge impact on my life to the point where I had the board game when I was a kid, and I knew all the Colonial Marines names, and obviously, all that kind of stuff, and what order they died in and everything. But I mean, I'm going to gush a little bit because this is just kind of mind-blowing right now to be talking to you. But yeah, I've been a fan essentially my entire life, basically.
Yeah.
And your body of work is pretty extensive,
Oh.
I
thanks.
think.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Aliens was your first film that you
Yep. That was
made.
first film, first time even on camera. I mean, I'd never done TV
Wow.
or commercials or anything. I'd been on a stage actress. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got your start. You're from LA originally.
I'm from
right?
LA, which is funny because you'd think I would do that, and no, I'd always been taken to the theater. My parents were big, they loved going to the theater, Shakespeare and whatever was playing, when they were younger in New York as well. So that was my dream, was to go to New York
Okay.
and train and be on the stage or do repertory theater.
Yeah.
And then eventually, they'd also had taken us to London, and we saw the plays in London. And then,
Oh wow.
so that was another dream of mine of I'll go to London and I'll be on the English stage. That was my dream, and that's how I ended up in London.
Wow. Really?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah. No, I mean, I was a very directed little girl. I mean, once I figured out that pretending you could make a living, not make a living, actually, let me rephrase that. It was a job. It was a profession that you could
Yeah.
work at and train at. I was all in. And
Nice.
so I was very directed, I was in high school in the plays. And then I, heard about drama school in New York and went to New York. And then I went to London after finishing at Circle in the Square. There was a
Okay.
professional training
Yep.
program. There was a postgraduate program, which meant it was one more year in London. and I moved over to London to do that, and then I stayed there.
Wow.
Yeah,
So how long were you in London?
I was there 4 years.
Okay.
I'd gotten married to my boyfriend before going over there, and that allowed me, to get my it's called your resident alien
Okay.
card.
So you were an alien before aliens.
Yeah, and that's it's not called that's and actually that is a little Easter egg there of how I auditioned for the role.
Oh,
Yeah, so
nice.
it's not called your green card; it's called you're a resident alien.
Okay.
And when they were casting for a film called Aliens, and they specifically wanted to see Americans or North Americans only. This was at this point.
Okay.
And this was, I didn't have an agent, so I didn't know the specifics. It was in one of those, backstage pages where if it's there, it's already cast, whatever. But I was
Yeah.
like, oh, Alien, maybe in a blip in my mind, I remembered it going to Alien and thinking, but like, wow, this is 8 years, it can't be a sequel or whatever. And then I thought, oh, Resident Aliens, Americans. Oh, it's got to be something about, the underground thing where you marry your gay best friend to get your, it's about that kind
Yeah.
of world
Yeah.
of immigrants who marry and get their resident. And that was my idea when I walked into the audition, that was what I was going to read for.
You thought you were getting cast for the movie Green Card with Gerard Depardieu and
Exactly.
Annie McDowell.
Right, I was the new. I had hair like her back
Which
then.
I
Yeah.
love that movie, by the way. I saw that movie with my mom, which tells you about my background, but anyways. And I really loved it. But so you go in for this and you're thinking it's one thing, and then you get there and you're like, oh, this is not what I expected.
Yeah, well, I went in, it was at just a meeting. There wasn't any like sides or any audition. And so, any sort of meeting, I just sort of did a light wash of makeup and a pair of sensible pumps. And, I just, I dressed, I remember I wore a pair of like nice little slacks, and it was unusually warm. This was in London, it was in the summer, and I was wearing a sleeveless blouse.
Okay.
And when I walked in, and Gail, the producer, she said, "Do you know what this movie is about?" I said, "I don't. I'm sorry, I don't." And it's about it's the sequel to Alien. Have you seen that? I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And then she said, "And so there are these Marines, and we're seeing people to be this army, And I just thought, "Oh my God, I have completely misdressed. I would have." Slicked my hair back, worn some, what. But when she said Marines, I kind of did this little bicep flex.
Okay, cool.
Just to show like, oh, because I had just been, this was the very end of 2 years of intense weightlifting I had undergone.
For a role or?
No, it was, I had graduated from drama school and I was unemployed.
Mhm.
And I was looking for jobs and going crazy and kind of running around the park. And there was a bodybuilders gym up
Okay.
the street from me. And I'd been a gymnast as a young girl and a tomboy. And I had a pull-up bar in my bedroom. I kid you not. I mean, I was a tomboy.
Yeah, totally.
And so
It's
I was
awesome.
like, cool, I'm going to go. And I started working out at the gym, and Mr. and Miss Britain worked out there.
Okay.
It was this little, gym in East London, kind of a rundown neighborhood, but they happened to work out there. So I sort of got into, bodybuilding and the whole thing. And I just, I kind of, for 2 years, I was like, I can do this and I'm really good. So I just happened to be in the best shape of my life. And the audition, appeared or whatever. And, she said, "Oh my God, are you a bodybuilder?" I'm so confused. I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not a bodybuilder. I just did do that, and I'm an actress." And then she asked, "Are there other actresses out there like you?" And I'm like, "No, no." But there wasn't. There was hardly any women in the gym. I mean, this was 1985.
Yeah, fitness was still very segregated at that time. It was like, well, guys work out in the gym.
Right.
Girls work out in a fitness studio.
Right,
Right?
exactly. So, and this was a bodybuilder's gym. So it was like
Yeah.
all guys, and there was also a boxing ring. Yeah, there was like the fitness, like Jane Fonda
Yeah.
exercise studio.
Yeah.
But there was
I used to work out to
but there
that.
were the women. There were the bodybuilder women.
Yeah.
Like Lisa Lyons, and there were, but it was very cult, very alt for
Yes.
the women's.
Yeah, and I remember Muscle and Fitness magazine because my brother
Yeah,
was
yes.
a bodybuilder too.
Oh, okay. Oh, they're great. It's such a subculture, and I would go to the
yeah, totally.
the events, and they're just great. I mean, it was this whole subculture that I just got really into, and I kind of loved all the people, and it was really fun.
There's an actor named Richard Horvitz who teaches voice acting now, and
Uh-huh.
brilliant voice actor teacher, by the way. But he talks about there is no such thing as coincidences, in his opinion. And so here you are, going into this audition, thinking it's one thing, ends up being this other thing.
Right.
But you were in a way prepared for that.
It was very
crazy.
strange, and also the thing is they had already cast, so Jim and Gail had wanted to do like what they had done with Arnold. So the character of Vasquez it was very important that she have this body, this physicality.
Yeah.
They needed the body. And they just assumed there were no actresses with that, and they were going to do what they did with Arnold. They'd find a bodybuilder, and they would teach her to act. And
Fair enough, yeah.
And that they had done it with him successfully to a point. And sorry,
No, it's all good. Kidding me? You can always edit something too if you want to.
Okay,
go
if I
there.
don't want. Yeah, right. And they actually did. There was a bodybuilder who they had. I don't know at what point of the deal it was, but they had reached out to her. They had been maybe acting, or I don't know where it was. However, she either passed or was having issues.
Okay.
She'd become a born again Christian, and she had problems with the language, and whatever. There were issues.
Understandable.
And I walked in, and I was not there to be seen for that role. I mean, that was the thing.
Yeah.
It was cast.
So what role were you?
Well, they were looking for the other players. It was either the pilot
Okay.
or the medic.
Okay.
Or even possibly one of the women, because when you film in England, you have to show that you have searched amongst the North American actors who can legally work there, and they have a British equity card.
Oh, I see.
You have to, to say before bringing over, your leads to come in. It's a union thing. They protect their actors there.
And all these people come in thinking, "Oh, yeah, I did a great job," and they're like, "No, we're not. We're just seeing you because we have to."
Well, yeah, it kind of was, but they did say right away. They, because they gave me the sides. She said, "Oh, can you come back and like wear some jeans or something like that?" I said, "Sure." Put my hair back, and I'm going to give you some sides.
Was your hair long at that point?
Yeah, it was very long.
Okay.
So, gave me some sides. This is a role. It's Vasquez. You're not reading for her. She's already been cast. We just want to hear how you read.
Okay.
So it was a little bit. It was a couple of scenes here and there.
Yeah.
And I, went home and I was thinking, well, I don't know. How do you show how you can act by not being the character? I'm just going to be the character, and then they can make of it what they want.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then Gail said, this is kind of strange. Do you have a couple of hours? You have an hour or so to go to lunch and come back? And I said, yeah.
Okay.
I'm so unemployed. I have all the time in the world.
Well, like, let me check my
Let me
schedule.
check my schedule here.
You don't have a watch on your wrist, but you're looking at your wrist. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So she said, okay, so I'm going to give you this monologue. It's for a role. It's Hudson, no, you're not reading for this role. It's just, I want to hear how you read.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is.
Wow.
So I went out to lunch and she said, just, work with it and come back and do the best you can. And it was that monologue. It was cut from the theatrical one. It's one where he's going, we got guns, we got knives, and he's doing that whole kind of pumping everybody up. So I thought, okay, who am I reading? Who's this? This is another character. Okay, this is someone else I'm not reading for. Okay, I will do this character now. And I came back and I did my version of Hudson in that scene.
Wow.
I hadn't read the script. They don't give you the script.
Yeah.
And then she was like, thanks, that was great. Okay, we'll call you, give me, I'm just trying to think. There were no cell phones then. Give me your phone. I'm like,
right.
Who is she going to call? And then it was weird. And then I came back and I met Cameron. And again, he started wanting me to improvise on Vasquez and talk about her and do different things. And I, again, I was confused at what was going on. And then he said, okay, that's really great. He asked me, what sort of ethnicity I was. And I said, I'm kind of mixed. I'm Jewish all through, but I'm, mixed in Brazilian and Russian and different things.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the room and going to get my train home, and they kind of ran after me and said, "Can you come back in the room?" And oh yeah, sure. And then he said, "Oh, this is really strange, but we want you in the film, and we want to get you before anyone else does." Again, oh yeah, let me check my calendar. Yeah, let me see. There's so many offers. So we're gonna. We don't know what role we're gonna give you, but here's the script, and we'll be in touch maybe in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just my mind was
It must have been
just
blown away.
blown. Just it was I couldn't. I mean, I wasn't quite sure who he was. I knew he was the writer. He was crawling on the floor with me. He had a little camera. I mean, he was. Everyone was so young. I mean,
Yeah.
Gail was 28, 29. He was 30. I mean, I was.
Wow.
It was. I thought, well, okay, I guess he's the director, but do film directors crawl on the floor and improvise with you? And I mean, it was so. I walked out.
Wow.
The casting director said, "Oh, do you have an agent? Do you want to do? I don't. I know. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. I should. Do you want to do the deal, or should I get you an agent?"
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, yes, please." It was like the most bizarre thing.
Wow.
Went back. I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was, and then 2 weeks later, I got the call from the casting director. Said, "Congratulations, we've got good news for you. They're going to give you the role of Vasquez." So, yeah.
And you're like that person that was you had in mind. Obviously, that fell through.
Yeah,
and-
I don't obviously know what
Yeah.
had gone on during that time and
Wow.
what had
Wow, that's crazy.
but that Jim, he the lovely bastard that he is was like, no, this is who I want, and I don't care that you don't know who she is, and I don't care, and he
wow.
and that was kind of with him. He was like, "You can do it. I trust you. You know who she is. You know it." I mean, that was kind of amazing when someone just has their trust.
Yeah, you
in
lock
you.
in on somebody, and you just he just knew, even if you didn't know,
Well, that was kind of
right?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So here, what a whirlwind at this point now.
That was great. It was I can't remember how many years. I guess it was about a year and a half, 2 years out of drama school. And
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of fringe theater and, trying to get into rep company. How any actor does, and all my friends who stayed in New York, what they were doing, everybody was just hustling.
Getting
and,
into training, and like you said, like working out in that gym and thinking, well, this is just something to pass the time, and
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I mean, I still love lifting weights and doing
Yeah.
that. That's just kind of my thing.
But here it is, like it propelled you into this role, and you became Vasquez. Like you. I know Corey specifically. He and I will have conversations all the time about like, whoa, that just the motivation behind certain scenes, or like, the text you had on your armor, or like,
Oh.
what is that all about? Like, I know he wants to ask you that question.
Okay, ask
And,
away.
But getting into that, like, I was thinking of Corey Everson. Do you know who Corey Everson?
Sure,
Okay,
of
yeah.
course.
Because she was a big
Yeah,
you
no, that was
know,
during that time.
yeah.
She was Miss was it called Miss Universe?
Miss Universe.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I read,
Yeah, and I was like,
was
oh,
mad.
she's cool. Like I loved my mom. Up and down will always praise my mom. She's just strong.
I think they tried to make. I mean, there was
They
during the
tried.
time of Conan the Barbarian. I think they were trying to find.
Sandel Bergman was the
right.
actor who did that.
Okay,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah. No,
She was more of a dancer, a trained dancer, but still,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's so cool. Like that.
Brigitte Nielsen and
Yeah.
all those big, powerful women. The interesting thing is that all of those films were all fantasy and superhero type films. There
Yeah.
never was, to my mind, an actual real person, a real woman person.
Yeah.
She always had to be sort of a superhero in order
Larger
to be
than
strong.
life.
Yeah, yeah.
And here you guys are, this ragtag group of space marines.
Yeah, no, that's the one
blowing
thing I
awards.
did not want to make her be larger than life or some kind of superhero.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna let Corey take this, but I just have to say, like, the emotion, the realness that comes out of these characters, every single one of them, and it's so compelling. I don't think there's not many movies in life where you can just sit down and like immediately get drawn into the characters, but you are immediately drawn in.
The
to every
ensemble
single-
is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every single actor, and you know who they are and you feel it for them. And yeah, that was
Yeah.
such an amazing group of actors.
And Corey, I know you want to ask about the writing on her armor.
Well, yeah. The writing that's on Vasquez's chest plate armor, and I'd heard that a lot of the actors decorated their own armor to kind of give it a sense of theirs and uniqueness to it. Was that your that phrase your idea to put
Yes.
it on there, or was that like a production design thing?
No, no, all the actors, we all decorated all of our armor and our lockers.
Okay.
So that was mine. That was
That's awesome.
yeah, that was from I was doing research, and I had been reading this Chicana poet from, I don't know, LA or San Antonio, I can't remember. But that was in the poem, and it was a graffiti that had been written on a wall from a gang member. And it means the risk always lives, or there's no life without risk.
Yeah.
That's the sort
Yeah.
of less literal translation. So yeah, no, that was definitely,
That's
when I read
beautiful.
that, I just thought that's great.
What was
Yeah.
the motivation
So
behind
iconic
that?
now on the chest armor like that.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I love that you are all able to kind of identify your persona. Like what was the process, the thought, the reasoning behind that?
Well, that was Jim. I mean, that's such a gift for an actor to do that. I mean, you do that in consultation with production and costume and all of that, but to be, brought in as an artistic member of the crew, I mean, you're creating. Sometimes, you'll walk into your room and you go, oh, okay, this is where I live. I have to rethink my my conception of the character. No, it was great. No, he just said, go ahead. It helped and it made sense. It was logical, and boy, we ate it up. I mean, loved it. I mean, I have things that I wrote. Like I have a tattoo. I don't even think it on my forearm, my inner forearm, that I don't think is even in a shot.
Hmm.
But that was for me. Every actor does things for themselves, and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's seen, but it helps you.
It helped you
Did you have any other any Latin characters that you looked to sort of for inspiration to get into the role of Vasquez, or get into the head of her? I guess I should
Well,
say.
well, I in my locker. I mean, I was thinking, I with any character that I portray, because I'm a character actress, and I've yet to play myself. If I ever find out who that is. But I mean, there are, actors. I mean, actors have different processes, but I like, inspiration boards and things. Artists do that. And on my locker, I had been fascinated with the Sandinistas in Nicaragua.
Mm.
And where I ended up going after I came back to LA. And I had this great picture, it's on my locker, of a young girl holding a rifle, and she has her cross in her mouth. She's kind of just holding it. And then there was another picture of a Richard Avedon book, this famous book where he did these black and white portraits. And there's this wonderful carny, and he's almost like a snake figure. He's a Chicano, and I had that on my locker, that in my mind, it was my brother. And I don't know, I mean, just little touch things of who she was, where she came from.
Yeah.
I mean, it said in the script, she was a gang member, and she was serving life in juvenile prison. And I mean, that was the backstory of both her and Drake. They
Okay.
both were serving life sentence, juvenile prison, and they were conscripted into the army. So that made them very different from the other ones who
Yeah.
had joined.
Totally.
So that was the backstory.
But like you took it apart and even added so much more detail. Like you said, the tattoo on your arm to help you stay motivated and
Well, the tattoo, I mean, it's funny, I don't even know. The tattoo, as an actor, I'm looking at the script, and to me, the script is about mothers and daughters. It's absolutely about, you lose the fact, unfortunately, in the theatrical version where Ripley comes back and her daughter has already died, passed away.
Yeah.
And then, you have the mother-daughter figures, Newt, and then you have, of course, the queen and her children. I mean, it's about ferocity of women, mothers
Yeah.
and daughters. And so I, knowing where she came from, I in my story of who Vasquez was, that she had a daughter who was being raised now by her mother. And when she, went to prison, and her name was, it was Inez. So I had it just tattooed on my arm.
Oh, very
Because-
cool.
And it's funny because I don't know if, somebody asked, I think maybe somebody saw it and was like, oh, is that her girlfriend? And that was sometimes somebody asked me. I said, no, that's the name of her daughter.
Which makes even more sense. Like the
And that was just to hook,
Yeah,
me as an actor
course.
into what the story
Oh, it adds so much more depth to
was
who
about.
you are
I don't know. I mean, actors
as a person. I love
Yeah.
that.
anyway.
And Vasquez and Drake are obviously very close in the movie.
Mhm.
Did you and Mark Ralston, did you guys like have a special bond while you were filming it too? Did that helped make that come off on the screen?
We absolutely did. I mean, we actually had not met each other before. I mean, he's American as well, and had gone to drama school there and married an English woman. And but we met, and we had such a luxury that we were afforded, all the actors, that we got 2 weeks to train, to hang out with each
Wow.
other, to
Fantastic.
rehearse. I mean, that's kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
And we'd go over so he lived there. He had a house. He was, I did too, but I had a tiny apartment. He invited us over for dinner, me and his wife, and he had a young boy, and it was great. And so we became very close friends because we were always there on our stools next to each other, strapped in this thing. And then we are best friends. We've been friends ever since.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
he
great.
came.
that's awesome.
Yeah, he came back to LA when I decided to come to LA for the premiere, and
Mhm.
he's from Baltimore.
Ah.
He came over with me and we stayed at my folks' house, and so yeah, no, he's my closest male friend.
Did you move to LA then after this movie was made?
I did. I had no plans. People always said when I moved away, "Oh, when are you coming back?" I said, "I don't know. When I feel like moving back." I hadn't been back, and I got the call from it was Gail, I think, or one of the production, to say that it's you should really come back for the premiere. People really like your performance and all that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to LA. Obviously, it's a good time. So
Yeah.
I went back for that, and I was kind of by continent or something. That was my idea. So I went back and forth a bit. I got agents in Los Angeles,
Okay.
and then eventually I decided I would stay here.
Because this is all pretty relatively new to you.
It was really new.
Right.
No, I mean, I had an agent in London, but I had only just had it, and I came back, and no one had heard of me. I was so old. I was 26, but in a way, it was like,
Well,
it's-
yeah, at the time. Yeah.
you're not, and I got an agent and auditions, and Catherine, and I got into another movie. So all
Yep.
the work was happening in Los Angeles,
Oh
and it
my
was
gosh.
not happening in London
No,
for me.
no.
So I moved here.
I was going to say, I remember when Aliens was being made, and there was discussion about it in the magazines and whatnot, and saying it was being filmed in London. And it was so foreign to me at the time as a kid, because I just thought, oh, they make movies over there? I thought they make everything in Hollywood. I was so naive to it,
Well, mostly.
But when you were filming it, and I didn't know this maybe up till 10 years ago, because obviously Corey did, because he's way more into Aliens than I am, even though I'm a huge fan. But the casting of Hicks originally was James Remar, and then they changed that over.
Yeah.
And how was that transition for you as an actor with this team you were already starting to bond
It
with?
was very strange. It was, I mean, we had been working with him for, 2 weeks, and then we had started filming. I forget how many weeks, or maybe a week. We were and then all of a sudden he was gone, and here was Michael Biehn, who I knew from Terminator. I
Yeah.
thought he was amazing, and he had a completely different take
Hmm.
on Hicks, which was interesting. Very, very different. And we just all we were a unit, and we just took him in, and we just kept going.
Wow. Well, it translates on screen, obviously, but I've often thought, like, what would that have been?
It's very different. I mean, his voice, that gruffness,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was very different. And,
Yeah.
and Michael just has that softness and the quiet intensity. And so
Yeah.
it would have been a different, I don't know if a different film, but definitely a different
Wow.
portrayal.
Corey had put a post out on our Instagram and said, if anybody has questions, for you to
Mhm.
throw them out. And one of them was, were the guns heavy? like that you had to carry?
Oh yes.
Really?
Oh yes. It was very. I mean, the smart gun was an AR. I'm not a gun person. I don't.
Neither am I.
But it's that one that sits on the tripod on the back of the pickup truck, like an Angola that they. It's this massive gun. It's like 75, 80 pounds.
Wow.
And yeah, it's huge. But it was mounted on a Steadicam. I mean, that the armor breastplate that I was wearing was a Steadicam unit that was modified, and so it had a balance to it.
Okay,
but I
cool.
mean, if you speak to Steadicam operators, I mean, it's really you have to. It kills your back, and you have to walk a certain way, but that was all Jim setting that all up. But that was incredibly heavy, and then the other gun seemed amazingly light. In comparison, it was like a toothpick, but it was a real, it had weight. It wasn't a piece of wood or something like that.
Well, it's like going into the gym and you know doing bench presses, and then suddenly having to go over to do some
And we did
dumbbell
we did the smart gun thing. It was the first 2 weeks of that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we did the scene in the atmosphere processing station with all the cast, and then they all get, the ones who get killed, and then we went into the other part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine. I remember as a kid, I worked with my stepdad, and he did tile contracting, and I'd carry that tile saw. Tile saws now are way lighter than they were back then, and so going up and down stairs with this 75 piece.
Oh man,
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the same as having a machine gun strapped to me, but
it helps you focus. It helps you focus as an actor. I mean, that's the whole thing. It was like a war, like a battle. It was like to stay upright and not be hit by the casings that would come out, and it really focused you. And if Jenette was scared, which I was, I would keep it down. You use what you have. I mean, that's a thing that actors do, and it was like you just use it. Of course you're scared.
Were you able to turn that off, like after you were done with the movie? That was the character. That was Vasquez.
Oh yeah, I'm always.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great versus going too method. And
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to take off that mask and all of that. Yeah.
wow. So you come out to LA after this, and then are you offered the part of? Do you go directly to Near Dark soon after that, or how did that?
I did go directly. Catherine Bigelow had been working with James Cameron. They knew each other, and I guess she saw the movie, couldn't find me. I don't know if I didn't have an agent or I wasn't in SAG, but he had the my mother's phone number. I was living at their house. And so she just called me up and was like, "Hi, I'm a friend of James Cameron." He gave the number, and I have a script, and and I read it. It was amazing. The script is so beautiful. It's so minimalist and poetic, and
It's a very unique film. I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
I just loved it. And it's funny when I would go out with, the guys and, Bill Paxton and Mark, we get together and everyone's like, so what are you reading for? What are you reading for? Oh, we had this audition. And they didn't mention, and I didn't mention that we had read for this, because describing the movie, it's a vampire Winnebago. We would sound like, it was too embarrassing to describe. So we just were like, and finally one night someone said, "Oh, it's interesting movie. It's a vampire." And I'm like, "Wait a second, I'm reading for that." Yeah, me too.
really?
It was really fun. Like, I didn't want to say because it sounds so hokey.
Yeah,
but,
if you broke it down, it sounds a little hokey.
Yeah,
but
it sounds like this is terrible.
Yeah.
But
National Lampoon's Vacation
Yeah.
meets Lost Boys.
right.
No.
There you go. That's how they should have marketed it. Maybe it would have done better.
Well, it's a weird time because Lost Boys came out around the same time.
The same weekend.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. It was Halloween.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
It was Halloween weekend.
They're so different though.
I know.
And the fact that, I'm a huge movie soundtrack guy. I love soundtracks. And Tangerine Dream doing the soundtrack, it's so magical.
Oh yeah.
Like they're one of the best soundtrack groups, I guess you would say. But anyways, and then the casting, you go from Aliens, and you've got 3 characters from Aliens are now in Near Dark together as a family.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It really. It has that kind of. It's the independent, low budget grindhouse, genre film.
Yep.
That is also one of the tropes, is that you recognize people from the other films who've worked with so and so.
Which I always loved. Still do.
Yeah, you go, oh, I remember him from, Piranha 2, or, I mean, that's,
Well, but what stood out to me initially was Tim Thomerson being in it.
oh,
and I
God,
love
he's
Tim
so
Thomerson.
great.
And so I have a lot of feelings about Near Dark because I think it's one of those movies that needs to be revisited. But I was at a Fangoria convention years ago, and Lance Henriksen was a guest there.
Uh-huh.
And he told a story about how he and Bill went into a diner together in full makeup. Did you guys ever do anything like that?
No, because I would prefer to stay alive. I mean, and actually, it wasn't. It was, it was really Lance leading the crazy charge. As
Sounds
crazy
like it.
as Paxton was, I mean, Lance. I mean, he had those weird nails that he had gotten done and kind of sawed them down, and then they drove when we were filming a lot in Arizona, south of Tempe, somewhere. I forget the name of the town, and they drove out there, and he's very method, Lance, and
Yes.
and all of that. I mean, I mean, Bill is crazy, but it's kind of a studied crazy. You know what I mean? It's and so yeah, they have a lot of stories. But no, I sort of stayed separate from that. We were at the same sort of truck stop, but
Smart.
yeah, it
You
was.
didn't get pulled over by the cops then, and
Yeah,
he told that story.
I know. Cool.
Did you stay in contact with Bill Paxton
Oh, yeah.
afterwards? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, both Bill and us.
It just
Yeah.
seems like, do you obviously have fond memories then of your
Oh,
relationship with him?
yeah, he was the greatest guy.
Yeah, such a talent. And
I know, just a best friend and husband and father, and
That's great.
just really brilliant sort of guy, and it's just tragic.
well, I feel like, Near Dark is in no way compared to Aliens, but the fact that you could compare it in the sense that it's such a unique film and it's different from everything else around it and tells a beautiful story. And the fact too that Catherine Bigelow was the director at a time when that was not, I don't want to say taboo, but it was definitely not something that was popular, I guess, back then, right?
You mean having a woman
A few-
director?
yeah.
Unlike now.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it was very unusual. I mean, it was her first solo directing foray, as she did a co-directing piece with Willem Dafoe. But yeah, to have a female genre director.
And writing the script as well. I mean,
And writing the script. Yeah, she wrote it with Eric
Red,
Red, and then
yeah.
it was her. Yeah, no, I mean, she was, she came from the art school, art background, and so yeah, it was a strange time. I mean, as far as being able to describe what sort of film it was very difficult. It was because it was before Quentin Tarantino. It was before. So if
Yeah.
if you were in an independent film, or if you were booking it in a theater, it was either grindhouse,
Yeah.
low budget horror, whatever, or it was a foreign French film. There wasn't the mixture of art and grind together.
Yeah.
So they went. I think that's how they marketed it. Why they did it over Halloween, and they had that poster of the big bloody head
Yes.
of Bill, which I thought was a joke when I saw it, because he had said how he's like, oh man, I never get my face on a poster. Like we went to when they did the oh god, what was he was the so he was always joking he never had his head. So we went into the office, and there was that picture. It was like one still of one
Yeah.
frame of his bloody head, and I thought he was joking. I thought he had gotten it made up just to show.
Okay.
And they're like, no, that's actually the poster, the bloody,
Oh man.
because in Mad Magazine, when it came out, I remember we went to Cantor's, there was a
Yeah.
newsstand by Cantor's, and we get the Mad Magazine. Oh my God, I'm in Mad. We open it up, and he's drawn as a chicken head. He's like, oh, dude, it's like, I'm in Mad Magazine, and it's not my face, So that's why I thought he was just pulling her leg, and so, yeah. So everything was like, this is horror, this is gore.
And it's really not. I mean,
So I almost felt like the kids that went to see it expecting gore,
Yeah.
probably were like, ugh.
Yeah.
And the audience, more of the art audience, older film buff, who would have liked it, probably went, this doesn't look like something I'd want to see, and they would have appreciated. So it was discovered later on, but I think
was.
had a 2-week run or something. I mean, it was not a long one.
Yeah, and I remember seeing it on video, and
Yeah.
and again, I was a huge Tim Thomerson fan, and I thought, oh, it's so cool to see him like as a dad character,
Yeah.
and everybody, there's like a lot of hope in this film in this weird way for me, like Adrian Pasdor's character. I'm like, oh, he can still turn back, and what's going on. there was so much depth to it. I watched that movie 3 times in a row
Oh, wow.
when it came out because I just loved it so much because it was so different, you know. But then you go from that to Terminator 2. Right?
Terminator 2, yes. I do the second part of.
And I love your character. And I remember when you came on screen and I was like, oh, yeah, like I want to see more of you, right? And I know Corey was saying, he said, oh, we gotta ask Jenette, how's Wolfie doing, right? Right, Corey?
Yeah, we
Wolfie's
got
just
a few
fine.
requests for that one. Yeah.
Wolfie's just fine.
Wolfie's just fine.
No, that's great. That was Jim gave me my chance to play a mother because we had talked about like, oh, you're so, because I was a mom then, and he's like, oh, nobody ever thinks of you as being a mother. You're always playing these like mean. So he said, oh, I got a mother role for you. Well, she turns into an alien. She kills people. She's terrible, but she's
Jim Cameron. So.
but she's a mom. No, that was great, and Xander Berkeley is amazing, and that was fun.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, it comes across on screen like you just have such a good time with your roles that you do. So, and then I want to jump forward just kind of
Sure.
because of time. You made the transition into being an entrepreneur, starting your own business, right?
Yeah, that was a really strange one. I did a lot of character roles, and I was like, when I got older, I mean, I did play mothers, but I was mothers who sold their children for crack. That was my, and then I don't think I
The
ever.
new comedy on NBC.
I don't think I ever had a husband. I don't think I ever had a husband in any role. Somehow I was always like the single mother whose child was killed. On guest star roles where you're just
Yeah.
like grieving over your dead child. It was
On the
and-
next Seventh Heaven.
I was on Seventh Heaven.
Yeah, I know. I pulled
Oh,
up
you
your
did?
IMDb's.
I was a geometry teacher. That is a stretch. That was, oh my God, I don't even remember. God, I can hardly remember doing that. But I was it was really strange. I knew because I grew up with friends whose parents were character actors, and that when you get, depending on how well you age, around like 40 or something, there's a valley for women, and I was writing and directing shorts and teaching and doing all the things that actors do. And I had this idea, and actually it was at a convention where I was signing autographs for Aliens and the other films that I did, and it was in a mall in outside of London, just the glamour.
Yes.
And in that mall, there was this bra fitting boutique for women with a full bust.
Yeah.
Not full figured or anything. And I'd kind of heard about it, and so on my lunch break I went to it. And I got fitted, and it just like blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe this. And I came home from the con, and my husband and I was just complaining. I was like, why don't they open a store here? Or why doesn't somebody do that? And he just said, why don't we do it?
Awesome.
And he's an artist, a painter.
Okay.
I mean, we're not business people. It was just,
Yeah.
and famous last words, I don't know if he regrets it to this day, but it was just kind of like an art project, so we call it retail theater in a way.
Yeah.
He designs the stores, and I mean, I did everything from the beginning, from cleaning the toilets to bookkeeping, and
Wow.
I clean toilets much better than I do bookkeeping, let me tell you. But I mean, it's
So
been,
do I.
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah,
But,
me too.
No, it's great. I mean, so we import the bras and the swimwear, sports bras from Europe, and they're very high quality. They're for, full bust. It's the old fashioned way where you come in with your fitter and you talk, hey, how's your family? How's your kids? And you do
Wow,
that.
cool.
And yeah, no, and that's what I like. I'm not out about selling things. I'm about relationships and talking to people and learning about them.
Mhm.
And that's what the bra fitter does, And my God, it's been almost 11 years, and we're
11 years? Wow. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
11 years ago, and
Congrats.
thank you. And we have 4 in Los Angeles.
Okay.
We just opened our 4th this past weekend,
Wow.
and we're opening our 5th, which is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, in 2 weeks.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Atlanta's where my mother's family's from, so
Okay.
that's kind of I made the jump. It's it's a little risky, but I like to open. I mean, I love that city, and
Well, Atlanta's for some, not connect it with Hollywood.
there's a lot of Hollywood.
Yeah,
there.
it seems like it's like the East Coast Hollywood nowadays. You know?
It's amazing. The last 5 years are so many. I mean, that's part of the reason. It was Xander. It was actually,
Okay.
what? I'd always gone to Atlanta when I was a kid, And then I knew Xander was there doing The Walking Dead, and
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to go there, and I'm going to visit him, and we're going to hang, because so many friends were there.
Yeah.
And it was Gail Unheard also.
Yeah, because you're working.
Yeah,
on it,
she was saying you should, you as an actor, you should go to So Atlanta was bubbling up, and I was like, you know what? Let me just go to Atlanta, and I fell in love with it. And so
Here you are.
this is what I do. So at the moment, I do like the marketing, that kind of thing for it. I have great team and that does it, and I'm an entrepreneur.
Well, clearly, after 11 years, like you said, almost 11 years of doing this, you took something that you thought, well, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to jump into it. And here you are making it happen.
It's, I'd never thought about doing business, and it's creative. It's really,
It is creative.
Yeah, I'm shocked because I was like, ugh, business, and.
But you think about that when you said your husband, kind of designs the
Mhm.
look. So much of business is about the presentation. How do you sell it in a way? Like what do you show people? People are not going to walk up to a storefront that's just plain and whatever. They're going to want to. What is it about this place that makes me want to go in? Right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's never about selling. I mean, for me, it was always like, okay, just know what you're saying, give me something of quality.
Yeah.
Don't cheat me. Have
Yeah.
a beautiful place. Be nice. Be honest. And I'd go there. I mean, it was really
That's great.
simpler than I thought. That kind of thing where they tell you, oh, you have a business plan and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You could only you need a business plan. I'll give you a secret. When somebody will loan you money.
Mm.
But nobody. When I figured out that no one was going to loan us any money, because this was 2008, then I was like, don't need a business plan.
I'm gonna make sure we mark that moment down. So and you also do some work because your assistant, I would say, Rachel, right? She's and off air we talked about how fantastic she is and and how helpful she was. And you talked about you do some work as well with kids who have been
in foster care.
Foster care, yeah. Can
Yeah,
you talk a
absolutely.
little bit about that?
Right, yeah. So my some of my kids came from foster care. My family, all my aunts and uncles were from foster care and adoption, and so that has always been a focus of mine. And helping in any whatever way we can. And one thing I just thought of was support through a good bra. I mean, there's many things that go into that, especially with the girls. And there's an organization called Glamour Gowns in Los Angeles where every year, and it's through CASA, which is the Court Appointed Special Advocates for Children, and they have an event where every high school girl and also boy now, because it's called Glamour Gowns and Suit Up, can come and get a free prom dress and shoes, and we do the bras. And so the way that I do it is when you buy a strapless bra, 100% of the net profits go to buy the product for the girls every year. And then what's so wonderful is that all my clients and fitters, they come and they volunteer and they help them. They're like special dressers and we fit them.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so yeah, it's really, it means a lot. And so it's called, it's a nonprofit that we have connected to, and it's called the Hourglass Underground.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, because it's like each one help one.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that new approach, like Tom's shoes, I think it is.
They call it social entrepreneur. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize what that was at first. I was like, okay, I've got to raise money.
Yeah.
And, I hate raising money. I mean, that's the word. I mean, some people are good at it. And I was doing some sort of fundraising and all that. And then I heard about this idea of that. No, you just earmark. Like, it's not one for one really, but you just earmark. And I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we do have people who donate. I mean, we have, www.hourglassunderground.org where you can donate.
Took the question out of my mouth.
Yeah, there you go. We absolutely do that. But to me, it's just so much easier. We just say this strapless bra, and then we earmark how much we made from that, and that's our budget. And then we work with our vendors who are wonderful. And every year we're doing it right now. We just say, hey, we want to make our money go as far as we can. Do you have anything to donate? And they always give us a real deep discount, and we just do what we can.
It's all out there. Like, it's all out there. It just needs people who want to help make a difference.
It's
Right.
it's an incredible event. I mean,
Yeah,
and the fact
sounds
that they do it for
fantastic.
boys now with the suits and the ties.
Oh, I love that.
It's so good. So they also need, men come and to do the men's section. Then they have the LGBTQ section as well.
That's great.
So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I mean, that could be a whole other discussion for a whole other podcast, but I love the idea that you are taking just this idea of like, well, let's see what happens. And now you're making so much of an impact in people's lives. It's great.
Well, it made it, like I said, my aunt, who was like my older sister, she came from foster care at 12. And there was a story where my grandmother took her to the basement at Macy's in the summer to get a winter coat. And she just didn't know. She was like, why are you getting me a winter coat? And she was like, darling, it's going to be cold. And, in December, what? And she said she just cried because the coat represented that she was going to be kept, that somebody was looking ahead to the future. So this idea that a simple garment that we all just think, oh, I'll just get myself a coat, to a child who's in foster care, doesn't have a family, means a lot. So it's just going to the prom, and it's just a strapless bra, but it means a lot more than that. So it's, what little that I can do.
Can you say the website again?
It is hourglassunderground.org.
Okay.
And there's a little PayPal link, and
Right.
we just use it to buy items for these young ladies.
And is your store online as well?
You can see we don't sell online because you have to be fitted, but yes, absolutely. It's Jenette Bras, JENETTE bras.com. And yeah, you could see all the product and read about the store and, email and ask questions, and Instagram at Jenette Bras _LA and then new ATL. And then if you want to see me and my cats and different things, I'm at Real Jenette Goldstein on
Fantastic.
Instagram. Yeah,
We're looking at your face, Corey.
I am. Yes, yes.
For those of you listening, we have taken Corey's head because Corey works remotely, not physically taking his head, but because Corey is in Oregon.
It's a horror show.
It's a horror.
Could've-
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah,
Because,
and a reanimator.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that great? That's
yeah,
a
I love
great-
Reanimator.
Yeah. Have you had Bruce?
Not
No,
yet.
not yet.
We
Okay.
haven't had Bruce Abbott yet. Maybe we have a connection there. But we talked. I saw the Bruce Reanimator the musical. Did you ever see it?
I haven't. I heard about it though. That's a brilliant
It was at the
idea.
Steve Allen Theater, which I don't even think is
No,
around
I
anymore.
know they knocked it down. I know. I know.
Oh, it's so. I saw Jeffrey Combs do a one-man play as Edgar Allan Poe there.
That was a great theater.
Which is and they did Reanimator the musical, and they gave everybody in the front audience. It was like Gallagher. Everyone had a plastic bag because they sprayed blood on everyone. My wife, who's not a horror fan, she goes to it and she's like, "What are we getting into?" I go, "Wait, did you? I showed you the trailer. Did you know what the Reanimators are?" She's like, well, "I wasn't really paying attention." I said, "Oh, yeah,
Oh,
you're in
that's-
for it then."
Yeah. So
And then the blood started spraying, and she's like, "This is hilarious and gross." I said, "Well, that's the movie, So, yeah. But we're looking at Corey's head because he can't be here remotely, and obviously we're in LA and he's in Oregon, and we have a nice cutout of his face that Jenette gets to look at while we're doing the interview. Thank you again for being on the show.
Oh.
This is really a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you so much.
yeah, it's funny. I did Switchblade Sisters. Do
Yes.
you know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful. But I was like, what do you? And they were like, you want to talk about they'd already done Near Dark.
Okay.
And it was funny. They had Karen Kusama talk. So they have people. So they just said, give us 3 genre films that you like that we haven't done, in your thing. And so I gave them Gloria, Mandy, and what's the one with the 2 kids? Love and Hate with Robert Mitchum. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
not They Live by Night.
gosh. Yeah, but it's The Night of the Hunter.
Night of the Hunter. Yeah. So anyway, I was just and so they said, we want you to speak about Mandy.
Okay.
So I rewatched it. I rewatched it.
Yeah,
Just-
Mandy's great.
It's so,
Yeah, such a great movie.
Yeah.
it is so great. Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I went to see it. It was funny because I was wondering why, because I didn't know the director.
Okay.
I didn't know the director. It was at the Vista, which is my local theater, and I
love the Vista.
yeah, my boys worked there, and
Oh, cool.
my hands are I get in there free, so it's my theater.
Nice.
Oh yeah, no, Victor he's my guy. So I saw it there, and I'm like, what's that? I was like, that is a crazy fucking poster, and I was like, Nick Cage. I'm like,
Yeah.
I said, let's just go see this. I don't know what the hell
Yeah.
this thing is. It's so good.
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day saying, is Nick Cage is he a good actor, or is he just over the top and wild? And I said, no, he is a phenomenal actor.
I learned so much about. I mean, it's interesting because I was asking her like, well, do you want me as a fan to sort of talk about Mandy because I don't, I'm not a director and she said no, I'll because it's a very intellectual sort of show as far as filmmakers
Okay.
go, in a way, and so she was like, no, I'm going to talk about it. So I learned so much about Nick, that he likes to know where everything is and,
Yeah.
and not mistake. And I said that makes perfect sense because if
Yeah.
you're going to go that crazy, I mean, some actors but I know exactly I'm like that. If I'm going to go out of control, I need to know I'm stepping here. I'm doing like the safe where, and he's exactly like that.
Great. That's awesome.
He doesn't want happy act. He wants like that. And
very purposeful.
yeah. Oh no, God, it's so funny.
Have you seen the Corey? What's the new one? Color Out of Night or
I haven't.
Color Out of Space.
Out
Yeah.
of Space? Yeah.
I was in Atlanta where I'm going tomorrow, and because I'm doing for Aliens Day.
Okay. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
426.
426. I had to field the offers. Last time I did something at where was I? At the Ace downtown. But so in Atlanta, there is an old movie theater called the Plaza. It's the oldest movie theater. It's exactly like the New Art. It's got a balcony, the whole thing. And the guys who run it and the local video store, of course, who all know everybody I know here because everyone knows each other. The independent,
Yeah.
So we're doing for Aliens Day. They're going to do, they're going to screen Aliens, and I'm going to do a Q&A.
Oh, cool.
But back to your thing, when I went there to meet the guys, they were playing that.
They were. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because we had Tony Timpone on talking about Fangoria, the 80s and the 90s of horror and whatnot, and he talked about Richard Stanley. He's a big fan of his films and how it's so great for him to finally have a vehicle again to showcase what a talent he is as a director.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny because my husband, he's a fine artist, but he really grew up he ran movie theater. So he was the manager of the Clay.
Okay.
In San Francisco.
I think I know
the
that
old
theater.
Grindhouse. Yeah.
I lived in the Bay Area for 20 years.
Yeah, down the cat and also in the Castro.
Oh yeah.
He
Castro,
actually
of course.
saw Near Dark.
New Beverly screened Near Dark.
Yes.
Not that long ago.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I was able to go to that a few years back.
Yeah, because Quentin Tarantino has a copy. Yeah, I remember I did a Q&A there with Bill and somebody else. I can't remember.
I missed that one. I remember that one. I missed it. I was so bummed.
Yeah, is that? Oh yeah. So they did Near Dark recently. So they said, "Do you want to do Aliens Day?" I was like, yeah. It's like
That's
our
so cool.
store opens, so I can kind of do the new store in Atlanta. And
I just love that you're a fan of the genre because,
absolutely.
so
I'm a huge genre
oftentimes,
fan.
I forget who we talked to, but they were not really a big fan of horror films. And I just thought, but they had done a number of them. And I thought, well, that's an interesting choice because they're like, well, it was a director who had directed a couple really good horror films. And he's like, well, I don't actually really like horror films. Like, well, come on, you gotta,
I don't like slasher. I like, my problem is I get affected. I can't look at it. And
my
go,
wife's that way.
Yeah. It disturbs me so much that it's hard for me to watch. But I mean, there are some of my favorite, like Hereditary.
Oh yeah.
I thought was amazing.
Oh yeah. My wife and I loved Hereditary.
Oh my God, that one was so good. There's certain, but I mean, there are certain blood. I've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, but it's a different genre. It's a different subgenre, right?
Yeah, Freddy. Oh, those ones, Freddy and all of. Hey, do you know the band Wolfie's Just Fine? Wolfie.
No.
Okay, so
that's awesome.
It's okay. Look it up. So it's a band. So he's a Canadian guy.
Wolfie's Just Fine.
So there's a song called Todd and Janelle. So Xander was the one that turned me on to this because there's a song called Todd and Janelle.
Okay.
So this guy, I forget. I'm like, tell me what his name is. Wolfie.
Oh, it's this is by John LaJoie.
Yeah,
he used to be
he's an
he
actor.
was on The League, and
Yeah.
he's great. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
cool.
a good songwriter, comedy.
He is but he writes. So Wolfie's Just Fine is actually folk. It's really beautiful song, and it deals with subjects of genre film. He has the most. So Todd and Janelle is a beautiful song about a marriage going bad, and it takes place in the mind of Todd just before he's killed.
Wow.
It's such a good song, and it's so beautiful. And then
I
he has a
love
beautiful
that.
song about Friday. I think it's Friday the 13th, and it's about how he was taken. So he was a French speaker. He grew up in Quebec, and he was taken by some friend's family to another house, and they watched it. He wasn't supposed to watch it, and it was his first time he ever saw like a naked boob, and it was all mixed with being killed, and it's this great. It's all about that, like how it affected him,
Yeah.
and it's a wonderful song.
Oh,
Anyway,
I've got to check it out.
he's a great writer.
One of the reasons we have this podcast, for me, in a weird way, is like therapy, because I processed some of the things that I was going through as a kid, and why was I so attracted to certain movies or certain role model characters and whatnot. Where was I in my parents' relationship and my relationship with my brother and yada yada yada.
Well, it feels like genre is, I mean, so I was asked about Mandy, and I'm like, it's a love story,
Yeah.
and it's about and revenge, and genre is like, to me, it's very similar to like Greek tragedy, and it's
Totally.
the simple pared down story. There's not a lot of excess exposition. People know that story over and over.
Yeah.
His wife is killed, and he seeks revenge.
Yep.
That's it.
Straightforward.
Yeah. And so that's very much what is, horror or the war film. Aliens was the war film. Near Dark is the genre. It's sort of the roving band of criminals or a story about drug addiction. There's also that in there, but it's done as a vampire film. So it's mixing of genres. And anyway,
I love that. Jenette Goldstein, thank you so much for being on our show.
Oh, thanks for having
This
me.
is a great trip down memory lane and past, present, and future, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was very cool. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Podcasting After Dark's exclusive interview series with Jenette Goldstein. And, as always, thank you for your support.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 winters alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.